better than you are.
Good morning. We're back again for more of the Commonwealth presentation. We're in the home stretch here. We only have 2 days left. So we will get right to it this morning. Brian, whenever you're ready.
Good morning, Mr. Dutroux, members of the panel. Good morning, welcome back. Today we will start with a presentation, a VEST presentation. We have Dave Kessling, Deputy Superintendent of SCI Houtzdale, and we have Ed Bachner, an independent consultant. As we discussed earlier, if there's no objection from the association, we will allow both individuals to do their presentation and then open both members of the panel up for questions at the end, as opposed to putting one up, allowing questions, as there probably will be an interplay between two individuals' testimony. We figured it just might be more convenient to have both of them remain on the panel for questions.
That's fine. Good morning, gentlemen. Could you just state your name for the record and just make sure your microphone's open?
Ed Bachner.
David Kessling.
Okay, whenever you're ready.
Introduce myself. My name is David Kessling. I'm currently a Deputy Superintendent at SCI Houtzdale. My background is I've been with the department for 25 years. In that time, I'm proud to say I've worked myself up from a corrections officer to my current rank of Deputy Superintendent. I've held many positions, some of which I was a CERT team leader. I was involved in the 1989 Camp Hill riots. I was also involved in the 1995 riots at SCI Poole Township. I was the regional CERT coordinator, as well as the special teams coordinator for the state of Pennsylvania, as well as the chief of security. I've been involved with the VEST since 2005, and I chaired the committee on selecting the VEST along with the PSCOA representatives at that time, and I've just been a part of this process since 2005. Ed?
My name is Ed Bachner. I presently serve as an independent consultant and an expert witness in areas related to body armor fabrics and personal body armor, both corrections type and anti-ballistic type. I got my start out of college when I got a job with DuPont in their textile organization. I spent 25 years kicking around various jobs inside DuPont in technical textile related functions and management functions. I spent the last 8 years managing their Kevlar soft body armor business and their technical development efforts. Then I went to work for one of my favorite customers, Second Chance Body Armor in northern Michigan. I spent 13 or 14 years there doing their product technical development work. During that period of time, I was responsible for several new generations of soft ballistic body armor, and I initiated the first soft corrections vests, first in California and then in other places in the United States back in 1995, using a new textile product from DuPont called Kevlar Correctional. Subsequent to that, and a few years later, I introduced improved new softer products based on a material called Poron Microflex, which is that really nice, soft, flexible material that is in the corrections vest. I designed the Second Chance corrections vest that both iterations that you purchased in the past and the present iteration that you're buying from Online Express is a knockoff of one of those. So I was responsible initially for those designs. I spend my time now helping textile weavers, high-tech weavers develop new protective fabrics, and helping vest manufacturers on a confidential basis develop new and improved vest designs. I've been doing that since 2005, making my living that way, and also serving as an occasional expert witness. I understand you have a little more detail in your handout, so I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. We're here today to testify that in 2005, during the arbitration award at that time, I believe it was arbitrator Tiener, he awarded that the vest would be worn in their mandatory wear. Also, he said that employees shall have the option of whether they can pick a style of vest that they're allowed to wear, whether a t-shirt or it's a strap type body armor. We were also tasked with having a committee comprised of the Commonwealth and the Association to select the body armor at that time, which we did, and I'll get into that a little bit later. In addition to that, we were to establish joint committees at the institution level that would identify potential issues or concerns that would then be addressed to the central office. I chaired the body armor committee. That committee consisted of 6 PSCOA members, which they identified. We had no selection in that. We asked them. They provided 6 members on that panel. In addition, there was 4 Department of Corrections representatives, in addition to someone from the Pennsylvania State Police, as well as the Office of Administration. During this time, we sent out notifications to all of the vendors at that time that had body armor, informing them that we were looking at body armor, that we were going to select body armor. We requested them to come into the Elizabethtown Training Academy and to show us what they had. They brought all their different types of vests in. We were all allowed to view those vests. We were able to tear the vest apart to see what the vest is made out of. And at that time, after that, it was pretty much agreed upon that we wouldn't look for spike level 3. It was just overkill for what was needed. And that was agreed to with the committee. During that, we narrowed our search of body armor as a committee down to 4 vendors. And at that time, it was discussed that we would have a wear test. PSCOA at that time wanted to conduct a wear test, which we agreed to do. They chose where this wear test would occur. It occurred in the corridor at Graterford, and it occurred in the kitchen at Muncie. It was felt that these were probably some of the more demanding areas in the institution, certainly not not the only, but it was one of the more demanding areas in the institution. It's hot, it's uncomfortable, so we wanted to test those in those areas, so we did. What happened with the wear test was that we gave these vests to the individuals, all 4 vests. They were to go out to their institutions. They conducted a wear test using all 4 tests. They came back to the panel, and then they rated the vest personally. Which one was too hot, which one was too cumbersome, what they liked about the vest, what they didn't like about the vest, and so on and so forth. After we had conducted the wear test, Armor Express was then chosen by the union and by the committee. I'll say that, by the committee, that we would go with Armor Express. And at that time, we also had chosen Spike Level 2. Since August 2006, the Department of Corrections has issued over 10,000 vests at well over a cost of $4 million. I talked earlier about local committees. During the arbitration, we were directed to have local committees and institutions. Each institution is different. Some institutions have air conditioning and climate control. Other institutions do not. So we understood as a committee that across the spectrum of the state, there's going to be different issues that may arise that we didn't think about. So these committees were comprised to address those issues. Those issues were to be reported to myself, which then would go to central office, and then if need be, approval was going to go back down if we were going to make changes to what our current policy was. In 2008, collective bargaining agreement, they wanted to make the wearing of protection vest would be optional. The arbitration was that they would continue to be mandatory. However, at that time, it was stated that we should make reasonable accommodations for the issues that we were having at the institutions. If you turn to the next page of local vest committees, these are some of the accommodations that were made as a result of those local committees. We provide a fit issue training video that basically educated the officers and staff members on how a vest should fit. It also how to clean the vest properly without damaging it. We provided mist machines at institutions and cool rooms. We made some exceptions. One of the exceptions on here is that we, at the correction utility plant operators, they came to us and said, look, when I'm going inside a boiler to work on it, I can't get in there with my vest on. There's only one way in, one way out. Do I have to wear my vest? We looked at that and we felt that that was reasonable. Yes, when you're in there, it's more than likely you're not going to be attacked inside a boiler by yourself. So we allowed them to have their vest off when they went inside the boiler. The same thing with SEI Graterford and other institutions that had tunnels. They're steam tunnels. If you've ever been down in one, they're very hot, dingy, dark. They requested that if they go down the steam tunnels, when you generally go down there, you do not have inmates with you. So we made the exception that if they go down there and they do not have inmates, once they get down there, they can take the vest off to work. Pregnancy vest. We are the only one that I'm aware of in the country, and maybe the world, that provides a pregnancy vest. When we went back to the body armor company about this, they're like, we don't even make anything like this, because what we were having was, obviously we have female officers, and when they were pregnant, the vest didn't fit anymore. So they worked with us, the body armor company worked with us to come up with a pregnancy vest for a female as she grows. Through her pregnancy, the vest would expand and still provide some protection for her. We provide water in the yard, ice machines. When you look at this list, each institution did not have to do all of this. It was up to the institution. These were the things that were approved, and the institutions were allowed to put in what they wanted. If they wanted to put a machine in, they could. If they wanted to have an air-conditioned room for officers, they could. Some institutions rotated officers. The current institution I'm at, we have air-conditioned housing units. So one of the suggestions was that we would take an officer who was in the yard in summertime, he could rotate out every half hour with a housing unit officer and give them some relief. So when the accommodations were made, these weren't accommodations had to be done at each institution because each institution is different. We just said, here are accommodations that can be made if you so choose. The institutions were allowed to do that. Some of the arguments that we hear against the vest: produces unsafe internal body, temperature when assigned to yard, outside assignments, housing blocks, and dietary. This simply just is not true. It's just not true. We have servicemen working in Iraq, serving in Iraq and Afghanistan at the temperatures are well over 100 degrees, and they're wearing much heavier body armor than what we are here in the Department of Corrections, and they have no issues. The same with the Department of Corrections in California. They wear a spike-free, I believe, body armor, and it's mandatory. It's one of their job requirements. If they can't wear it, they don't have a job. So, you know, and you'll see later on here, we've been able to track this. So this, although it may be uncomfortable and it's maybe somewhat cumbersome to wear because I've worn them, it certainly doesn't provide any type of help against your health, I should say. Vest moves the target to the head and neck. The head and neck will always be a target, always. Unless you're going to wear a football helmet in here, it will always be a target. What we're trying to do is that your vital areas, your kidneys, your intestines, your heart, your lungs, that is a big area. It's a big mass. Your head is smaller. We're trying to protect what we can, which is the internal body, organs of the body. Generally what happens when you're attacked is that when someone comes at you with an overhand thrust, you are able to see that coming at you. Therefore, you're going to attempt to try to block that, to try to block your head, leaving your midsection open. What we're trying to prevent about, and what Mr. Bachman will talk about, is a sneak attack and someone comes up and they do a thrust into you, or if you're trying to break up a fight and there's weapons involved. Most of the time when two inmates or a group of inmates are fighting, officers go up and they grab them in the heat of the battle. They don't know who's grabbing them. They don't know if it's another gang, if it's another member of the individuals being assaulted, and they turn around and attack. We're trying to stop that, and we're saying that the vest does prevent that, help prevent that. Other issues that were raised with the blue dye. We did have this issue with the company. When it was brought to our attention as a department, we immediately rectified that, went back to the company. They did have an issue with it, with some of the fabric that was coming out, and again, it was corrected. At the last arbitration, the formaldehyde was brought up. Again, the formaldehyde is in the preparation of the vest. That formaldehyde warning on the MSDS is for the individuals who were making the vest, not the staff member wearing the vest. Obviously, if there was a formaldehyde issue, I'm not going to put myself in danger wearing the vest, nor are we going to put our staff members in danger by putting in something that's carcinogen. Fire hazard. After we had the vest, and again, one of the things that came up throughout this that I don't think any of us thought about was our staff members who work in our maintenance departments who are working around electricity, some with very high voltage electricity, as well as the welders. Is it fire retardant?